you're black or white.
Okay, say something.
This is a test of the emergency broadcast system.
Alright, it works. We'll keep it going. You'll just have to edit that shit out. Okay, so welcome to another episode of PhD Games. We are your hosts, Huzak and
Pagan. Although I thought we were rebranding to be Pagan and Hazak Discuss Geek.
That's right. We are rebranding it to Pagan and Huzak Discuss Geek.
Okay, how about... Hello, thank you, and welcome to another episode of Pagan and Hazak Discuss Geek. We are rebranding ourselves instead of just video games.
I don't know why you restarted that sentence.
So that I could have a clear... I didn't want to just
If
restart.
he edits our earlier part out, just so you know, I started off with our original Pagan and Hazak Discuss Games, and he put Pagan and Hazak Discuss Geek. So I don't know if he's going to read the original part in there.
At this point, I'm tempted to just not edit anything whatsoever.
I don't see why we would change it. You'll know when you see it. So in some of our episodes, you may hear, because we're recording some of this stuff before we actually air it and not in a specific order. Some of the episodes you'll hear us say we're redoing the title of our broadcast of our podcast. So it will be known as Pagan and Hazak Discuss Geek. Originally from Pagan and Hazak Discuss Games, we figured since there's a large plethora of knowledge that we share that goes beyond just games, particularly me when it comes to manga and comics and anime, we figured there's more issues out there to discuss. So, speaking of issues to discuss, today we're going to kind of go over a topic that makes people kind of shake in their boots and makes them feel uncomfortable, but it's everywhere. We're going to be talking about racism.
And race in general.
But
mostly racism.
Because it's more prevalent in games. And so I know a lot of you will go, there's not that much racism in games, but there is, and there's a lot of it that you get.
We're just going to stop you there. There's racism in games. It's inherent in the system. It's there. Just stop typing.
Oh, you're going to type. I don't know why he even told you. You're going to send us all sorts of shit. And we know it. And please send us your shit because I like reading it. But to be kind of serious here, you kind of need to fucking know what's going on in your fucking games. It's just how it works. So we have a few topics to kind of pinpoint here in video games. Some of them will be positive. Some of them will be negative. Some of them will be for games that you like. And I don't actually give a fuck if you're upset about that. No, I take that back. I'm upset if you're upset, but if you're upset about racism and it's not in a positive ideal set, maybe you want to get rid of it. You know, well, fuck you. Like, it's not okay to be racist.
That's a much better way of phrasing the sentence, I think.
Yes. So anyway, we won't be disclosing, on purpose anyway, our particular ethnical backgrounds and identities. You can guess that on your own. And so, you know, maybe if one day we meet each other in person, you will notice that.
All right. So, where would you like to start today, then?
Shoot the fuck away.
All right.
Wherever you want.
Well, I still feel that it's best to. We're going to start this off with. Declaring that there is a general lack of diversity in games. Apologies. Let me handle that better.
Talk about me wording sentences.
Yeah. Well, pot kettle.
Which is black.
Yes, it is.
Racist.
There is a definite lack of diversity in games and in broader geek culture, but for this episode, we are going to focus more specifically in games.
This will be a multiple episode thing, so we will probably dwell more on probably comics and manga and anime on the next episode.
As well as movies and television.
Movies and television are much more obvious. But they are important. Continue.
Okay. And one of the games I feel highlights this lack of diversity in a almost as least malignant way possible is League of Legends. I am definitely not saying that Riot is racist. However, it should be noted that in a game with over 100 champions, most of which are identifiably human, and a lot of them are definitely white, there have been 3 definitely not white characters: Echo, Lucian, and Karma.
Well, what you want to probably say is that there are definitely 3 champions that are of a dark skin tone, because don't forget the Ionians. The Ionians in the League of Legends world, known as Runeterra, are basically what would be described as your East Asian countries.
Analogs, yeah.
Yeah, so you have your basically characters that would be considered Chinese or Japanese, such as Yasuo, who is clearly a Japanese samurai. You have Lee Sin, who is a Chinese monk. You have Wukong, who is based literally off of Sun Wukong.
Although Wukong mildly gets a pass as he is a literal monkey.
He's a literal mystical monkey. But yes, there's definitely nods to other cultures.
Now, I did forget about Lee Sin. I can't remember, but in his skin, I believe Lee Sin does have a noticeably Chinese skin tone. Or am I misremembering?
Well, no, he has the skin, but I'm not necessarily looking for the skin tone here so much as I'm looking for the actual cultural considerations and dynamics, because as we discussed earlier, I would consider Sivir from like the Middle East or countries like that.
I feel that it is this is a bit of a problem in some places. The problem of like having, this character is dressed up as a Middle Eastern or a East Asian,
right? But
their skin tone is like significantly paler than a real world person from those cultures.
Well, I also think there's a consideration to place in there that other countries have
variety of skin tones.
And I get what you mean. Definitely they are playing up the lighter skin tone, thus they are playing up the whiteness of that skin tone far more than they are playing up the darker skin tones in there. I agree with you there. That being said, I'd rather them go ahead and do that and still give the cultural dynamic, because then you can at least go, there aren't that many white characters in it. That being said, what we're kind of streaming at is the lack of darker characters in video games, which brings us kind of back to League of Legends representation of Karma, Lucian, and Echo. Now, for those of you who play League of Legends, pretty sure you know who the fuck we're talking about. For those of you who don't know who the fuck we're talking about, Karma is a representation of probably like a mystic Indian character. There's been a lot of vibe. There's a lot of debate when it comes to Karma.
Specifically, the subcontinent of India, not natives, not Native Americans.
Right. So India. So for you, and I'm going to be a little bit prejudiced here myself, Americans who think that when we said Indian, we meant Native American. No, we mean Indian. As in, over in Asia, it's is it shaped like Texas a little bit?
Only very vaguely.
Very vaguely, big Texas.
It's kind of like this,
like a weird, fucked up Texas. Like if you look at it on the map, I whenever I see India, I think, oh, it's the Texas of the East. It's just weird, but it's not. Anyway, the point is,
and also it only looks like Texas if Mexico is suddenly an ocean.
Yeah, and also, unlike Texas, beef is probably not the biggest thing they're going to be eating over there.
Lots of lamb burgers, though. Very delicious.
Lamb is delicious.
Oh, man, I love lamb.
The point is that we're getting off track.
Yes.
Karma is one of the few dark-skinned and female characters in League of Legends.
The twofers.
Yeah, they got 2 for 1. Yay. And so for us, that is a bit significant thing. And then there's Lucien, who's African American, and then there's Echo. Now, out of all three of these characters, the ones that still gets the most gripe is Lucien. Why is Lucien the one that gets the most gripe? Well, one, he already has dreads / braids in his hair. Typical stigma issue. Well, you say but for the African American community, that is generally the representation for animated characters in general. They have braids and dreadlocks as if their hair has no other.
I'll definitely
changes.
give you that, but at this, I feel that it's not as bad a choice as an afro would have been.
We'll get to that too. And on that note, I'm going to write down another 2 video games that we're going to have to discuss during the episode.
I would also say, I just say on the fact that he's wearing dreads, because that is definitely a fairly common.
I guess I get what you mean. For me personally, it's irksome to see it.
Yeah, fair enough.
And so it's just, I get what you mean though.
I think it. Here's the problem that I have is Echo. One of Echo's skins. He's I can't remember everything.
It's
but
Lucien.
It's Echo, the high school Echo.
Yeah. Okay. Never mind. Yeah. High school Echo. Yeah.
Where he's got all. He definitely looks as if they were like they picked out some black high schoolers and were like, everything that they are wearing, let's put on Echo.
True.
To the point where he's even got Vans.
Yeah, but okay, here's the thing about that. At this day and age, and this is a good thing. Now their item clothing choices annoy me because I'm becoming an old man, but that actually isn't racially destructive. And because Vans are a cultural thing for skateboarders, and the African American youth community has now started to skateboard a shit ton, which is incorporating their culture with another culture that was typically white.
Yeah,
and so the skinny jeans, the Vans, they are annoying and stupid, but that is a.
And I guess we should reiterate here that there's going to be. Let me actually look at this list again. One game where we're going to be objectively positive.
Yes.
And then the rest of these are mostly either wag of the finger or what the fuck.
Right.
And League of Legends is not either of those. It's this is
a very kind of generic position because the game does not go too far that it's making us go, good lord, your races, and it's not going so far for us to go, my word, you're trying really hard to get like the black vote. Like it
is the most benign version of this lack of diversity and a subtle inherent racism in the system.
Right. So, when you notice, oh my goodness, they made a black champion, it's a big deal. And given to Riot's credit, they've even made their own race of people. So it's, for us, this is kind of like a starting point. So you can kind of see the neutral ground. We both play League of Legends. I constantly play it actively. Again, my name is Hazak. If you want to add me, if you're not good, don't add me. I'm not playing with you. It's just not gonna happen. I main AD carry in support, and I just can't handle bad players. I'm sorry. And so, moving on from that though, but League of Legends is kind of a starting point. We're just kind of giving you that basis, and even at something that's that neutral, you're only getting 3. Dark skin
plus,
3,
like if you want to count Sivir and the Ionians.
Sivir, and then there's also Talia that's coming out next week, which I won't be able to play because of May Mester. Fuck that shit. And she's amazing. I think she's cool, and everyone's gonna try to play her, and they're gonna touch her. But
and of course, then you have someone will bring up the fact that League has a bunch of fantasy creatures.
Yes,
and some
forgot Nidalee.
Yeah, Nidalee is
she's
definitely
like South American.
She's Ionian, isn't she?
Well, I know, but her cultural representation, and if we're looking at skin tone,
yeah, she'd be skin tone. She looks like South African,
South
American. words.
But she is from Ionia. She's from the, like we said before,
vague East Asia analog.
East Asian analog, yeah.
I guess but like some people are going to bring up, well, Wukong, he's an Asian character, and Renekton and
Renekton, Azir, and Gnosis.
Yes.
So about them, they are all representations of Egyptian god culture. They do not count for this discussion for several reasons. One, they are animal representations of those gods. Two, they are gods. I shouldn't have to explain that part. Three, if the goddamn Egyptian god movie...
we're just gonna say there's been a couple of Egyptian movies recently that definitely deserve a talk about racial relations.
I guess we'll save that for episode 3.
Yes. It's coming back.
So, okay. Moving on from that. I've talked too long about League of Legends. Do we want to go deeper, dark, and scary negative, or we want to go some positive? Okay, so we're about to go to one of my old favorite companies.
Capcom are
purveyors
of joy. We love them. They made Mega Man. They made what are some other games that we really like?
Mega Man, Resident Evil,
Marvel vs. Capcom. They've got Devil May Cry. We in general really like this company. However, you done fucked up.
What Pagan is trying to say is that there are a good number of issues with Capcom. My biggest concern with Capcom, aside from their shitty way of producing new material, recycling old material, and throwing good material to trash, is the fact that they do no research when it comes to racial understanding. And this is not 100% fact, mind you. I don't live in Japan. I don't work at Capcom. But there are things that you just fucking notice that just means, motherfuckers, that y'all pick up a single fucking book about this thing. We're going to start off...
Now, of course, talking about Capcom and Capcom games, we're going to have to enter a... I don't think you and I want to have the discussion of, these are Japanese people talking about, the world, and Japanese are racist. Japanese aren't racist.
No.
Blah blah blah.
Full disclaimer,
that is a definite important factor in this.
Yes.
However, that is not the conversation that we're about to have.
Yeah. Full disclosure here about all of this. Like any country that's understanding material that's foreign to them, they only can understand as much material as they have. So, this is not to say that the Japanese people, Japanese culture in general, are going to be racist. As a matter of fact, from all of my understanding, it's the exact opposite. That being said, when utilizing information and material based off of other cultures, there are times where you should fucking do some research. One of the biggest things about it, to me, is that Capcom does not do that shit. And so, starting from that point, the biggest thing that really made me start opening up my eyes about Capcom and its racist tendencies is Resident Evil 5. For those of you who have never heard of Resident Evil 5, I'll give you a brief layout. It is a video game based off of the more popularized form of Resident Evil since Resident Evil 4.
Yeah.
Which is a great game and actually deals with racial connections a lot more tastefully when I think about it than Resident Evil 5, which doesn't even make sense.
We're going to say tastefully
in the context of Capcom.
In comparison and in the context of Capcom.
Yeah. So a brief kind of earlier summary so you can understand Resident Evil 5. Resident Evil 4 takes place in Spain. And in Spain, you fight the natives of an area. You're in a small town that's kind of cut off. and
You're
everyone
killing
there,
dirty Spanish peasants.
you're killing Spanish peasants essentially. Now, full disclaimer, they are all infected with a horrible mind destructive disease. You're not just running in there and trying to kill them.
Let's not talk about Resident Evil's fuck up a plot. They're zombies.
Yeah, zombies. Okay, yeah, that's right. So you're killing zombies that speak in Spanish. Now that being said, it was done far more tastefully because there wasn't any misconceptions of having them all run around with like maracas. And it actually centralized around some of the culture in that area. Wasn't great, don't get me wrong.
Not to mention that there's the, and this is another side topic that we will maybe get to, is the fact that there are some targets that are generally seen as more acceptable, and
okay, yeah, I see what you mean there. I personally don't feel that there's a target you can go that's respectful if you're not being respectful.
Well, not respectful, acceptable. Acceptable targets.
Acceptable targets.
And while I do agree with you that no targets should be acceptable, the fact is that in the general broad consensus, they're going to be acceptable targets.
You're right.
And in this case,
making fun of the Spanish.
Let's see, colonializing, racist, genocidal Spanish, mildly acceptable generally.
Yeah, and that's in the context of your history and all that jazz. Now, moving forward to Resident Evil 5.
Here's
the thing. Okay, so when Resident Evil 5 first came out, I actually was excited. It was taking place.
Actually, a little bit skeptical even earlier, but yeah, it takes place in
Africa. So,
did they actually ever discuss where in Africa it's taking place?
I don't remember, but it looked like it was like Central Africa.
Yeah.
So it takes place in Africa, and if you have an idea of Africa in your head, and it's probably going to be biased and a little bit racist, you're probably right on how this game looks. So you're in a really war-torn down area, really shoddy, really badly driven, highly populated. Same type of zombies, except they're all African. I actually had no issue with this. Every Resident Evil game had you shoot up zombies. That was fine. It happened in Africa, so the majority of the people in Africa are black. Whatever.
There's a little bit of, again, bringing up the skin tone thing of the people you're shooting were much darker than the companion you had.
Now, hold on. I'm getting to that.
I just wanted to bring that up. But I know what you're getting to.
I'm getting to that. So, okay. So, maybe it's because I played games for a long time. I'm kind of over all that shit. I'm like, whatever. Shooting black people because they're zombies, not because they're black. Fine. Several issues with this game start to develop very quickly. One, your character is the largest white man they could find. Chris, who is from one of the previous games, he is like the Hulk, essentially.
He's got Liefeld muscles.
He is huge. That's your main character. He's the most American thing they could send to kill these people. 2, they give you an assistant. I believe her name is Shiva.
I think Shiva is actually right.
Shiva is your assistant. She's your translator. She's your
we're not racist.
Your envoy to to the world at hand. Now, there's several issues wrong with this. One, she is a woman that is African American, being in a subservient position. She's literally your item box, your secondary item box, because as an AI control character, she's a complete idiot. She cannot do anything useful in combat. Even though in the cutscenes and stuff like that, she clearly has some kind of knowledge, she's usually useless for the most part. She just doesn't do anything quote unquote right. So there's a whole issue there about just a woman character not being equal to this gigantic man character. But sadly, today is not the episode that we do feminism And even though there's many multi-connections in feminism that connect with racism, this would take it forever. And we're two guys.
There's overlap.
Yeah, there's a lot of overlap. So, moving past that, so there's that. She is, of course, lighter than all of your enemies.
Like, she's still definitely...
She's dark skinned. She's definitely dark skinned.
But, like, you would definitely see her and think black.
And
but
she's
you wouldn't...
prettier, too. Out of all... She is much more attractive than any of the other characters that are in Africa.
Now, that would allow a leading into a discussion that we don't have time for, which is lightness of skin tone equaling attractiveness.
Right.
Which we aren't even going to go there.
What I mean by that, I mean, if they even made her darker, she's just better looking. Like, they made her facially better looking than all the other characters. So she could be dark or almost borderline white. She's just better looking than the characters. Now, all that aside, I still would have played the game. As a matter of fact, I did play the game.
I do want to bring up one more thing before we get to the thing that you're talking about.
God damn it.
I'm sorry. This one I feel deserves to be mentioned because they were using references of, like, imagery of the AIDS outbreak in Africa.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead. Take it away.
To mirror the zombie outbreak. And that actually, I think...
That ain't cool, dude.
I don't think that Capcom handled it tastefully, as evidenced by what you're going to bring up soon. But I think that could have been used to great effect.
Yes. Now, what Pagan is trying to say is that, like, they could have done that in a really, really well done way.
Because there's a lot of... there are parallels between...
the AIDS outbreak and that virus outbreak. And
we are not saying that AIDS victims are zombies. However, we're saying that you can make metaphors.
Yeah. And you can make those metaphors useful and helpful. And so, essentially...
But what Capcom seemed to do is use AIDS outbreak imagery to promote this video game, and that's tasteless.
Exactly.
Okay, now all of these things probably still could have been worth the playing.
Now, what Pagan has been kind of derailing me from is the biggest issue. So later on in the game, you get to a certain level in the game.
Isn't it halfway in?
It's like halfway in. It's right when I was getting really invested, and I was like, okay, this game's not that bad. Now you go through some tombs and shit like that. Fine. You apparently can go fuck up these people's culture and everything like that, and it's all good. The hell is this number? And so, okay, that's standard video game stuff. Fuck up people's homes. Now, eventually you get to an area that's kind of marshy. Lots of grass outside the city. And you're used to, like, these zombies are military zombies, are big monster zombies that you fight.
Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about the whole, like, paramilitary
apartheid kind
of.
Yeah. We won't get into that. I said at the beginning, if you have a negative image of Africa in your head, this is where this game takes place. That being said, your newfound enemy friends are, as the best way I can describe them, tiki men. They are show racist.
Like,
it's not like they tastefully researched.
Like, let's just get into brass tacks here. These are Africans in thatch and straw huts that are wielding
spears,
like
giant wool
Zulus.
No. See, that's what I was gonna say. They aren't tastefully done.
No.
We're giving a tribute to Zulu tribe warriors. No. These guys come out speaking all sorts of some kind of witchcraft language and essentially are committing acts of voodoo, which is not even like African in nature, but more so Caribbean of that connection.
But they're wielding like spears and
Spears
they've got
and
big
shields,
shields and they've
big
got
clubs,
headdresses.
and they have headdresses out
and
the
they're
wazoo.
not wearing anything else.
They're not wearing like pants. They are
Like-
racist tiki men. That is what they are.
This is a racist caricature 101.
And you are gunning these puppies down by the payload, and that is for a large portion of the game. That is what you're killing.
And it is very important to remember at this point, you are playing a white man.
You are playing a white man. So here's essentially how this works. Africa is just a place. A white person comes in, because the main bad guy, everyone should know, is White Whisker, is white, and he comes in and takes over and ruins the lives of all these black people. Now, who could save the black people? Oh, well, we have this one black person that's kind of good, but she's going to need help from someone better. So who's better than the good enough black person? Another white man. So the humbled black woman brings the big macho white man to come help her people by defeating the other only white man there. So only the great white man can defeat the other great white man, and he must step over the dark, laying dead bodies of the people there. This, to me, is what is called not doing your fucking research, cat fuck me calm. It is just not acceptable. Go on fucking Google shit that is happening in Africa, and even if your game still comes off a little bit fucking racist, it at least comes off intelligent. I don't mind when you give me a hint of racism. Everyone cannot get rid of that. That is the patriarchal fucked up society that we lived in. Doodly doo. We're trying to fix that now. But if you are trying to actually do something here, do a little bit of fucking research, please. It is not that damn hard. I'd go on further rants about this, but that could take up all day. Moving on to the other Capcom game.
Let me just sum up my opinion on Resident Evil 5. If they hadn't had the whole Tiki Men thing, I would have still said, this game's a little bit funky. But this goes from a little bit funky to, you done fucked up.
Yeah, it's really fucking bad. And so, moving to the next game.
Which, hey, bonus points, it's not just racism against Africans.
Yeah, so this game is racist against everybody if you look at it. So
you could even say it's kind of racist to Japanese folks.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, there's not a lot of Japanese characters except Ryu, and he's like the most honorable creature.
No, she's Chinese, isn't she?
Chun-Li? Chun-Li's Chinese.
And she's a little bit...
Yeah.
Granted, this is another one of those games where the racism and the sexism are like almost creating a circle of Venn diagram.
Oh, I can't talk about the sexism in Street Fighter. That'll take all day. So
we're probably already...
Oh yeah, we're definitely over the limit. So anyway, the point is that basically how this game works is it's Street Fighter. We're talking about Street Fighter. Street Fighter is a fighter. From the title, you can clearly understand. And for people who don't know, it's a 2D fighter, meaning you basically go up against someone and you try to punch them to death. Now, this character has a vast assortment of characters from all walks of life and all types. And
yeah, the general excuse of a story is that there's some sort of fighting
Well,
tournament.
We're not even getting into the fucking story. The game's been out since 1990s. Like, you should fucking know.
80s, man, I think.
88, 89, whatever. It's old.
But there's people from all around the world.
You're right. So the big issue about Street Fighter to me is that it again is a product of lack of research or not giving a shit about the research you got.
Since this game is that old, I think we can say that it's not giving a shit, and we can also say that fighting games in general have this problem of maybe it's caricature, but it's using a lot of visual...
caricature.
It's using a lot of visual signals to convey the character without having to bog it down.
Yeah, so another disclaimer here. I love fighting games. I love Street Fighter. It doesn't mean it doesn't have racist shit in it. I don't like the new ones because they are poor product placement and poorly done games. I've actually gotten over the fucked up shit that's in it already, but we're addressing the fucked up shit. So, just to list off a few characters, we have Balrog, which is basically a black boxer. We have Dudley, who is another black boxer. They're very different, and they're both racist for different reasons. There's El Fuerte, who is... I just let Pagan see.
Yeah,
he didn't actually...
I didn't remember this character from Street Fighter, whatever I played, but...
he did not remember how racist he is.
It's a caricature.
Then there's T-Hawk, which many of you may remember.
Oh, Jesus.
T-Hawk is, yes, he is supposed to represent Native Americans, for those of you who try to figure this out. There's DJ, which is Deejay, who is from Jamaica. And am I missing someone?
You're probably missing a bunch of people.
I'm missing a lot.
Well,
and then
there's Zangief.
Zangief, who is from Russia.
Let us like we said in earlier about acceptable targets. Russians were especially in the late 80s acceptable targets
because we actually thought of them as acceptable targets.
And so there's but there's got to be others that we're forgetting.
Oh, there's plenty, but I don't want to dwell too heavy on Street Fighter because that'll take forever.
Yeah.
And like we said, they are caricatures. Now, you can look up all these characters so you can get your own visual representations and hear them talk and stuff like that. But essentially, El Fuerte is a Mexican cook. If you're Mexican, and I date one and am very incorporated in the culture to the degree that I can be, you will know that is kind of a racist statement towards yourself as a cultural integrator, usually, because it's essentially saying that's all Mexicans are capable of doing. This guy is a luchador, which is, for those of you who don't know, a luchador, from my small amount of knowledge, is a Mexican wrestler, and they're not like the wrestlers that we have here. They're definitely theatrical and they do a lot of techniques, but they're like serious into this shit. Like, this is hardcore, like, wrestling. It's funny that Americans are super violent, but like luchadors and Japanese women's wrestling in particular is off the fucking chain. Like, they're wrestling, not like, all that shit. But anyway, then there's, like I said before, T-Hawk is a Native American representative who looks exactly what you may be thinking. He has the markings, like painting on his face, with a feather in the head. He fights in this strange stance that... just look at him.
Yeah. Like you said, we couldn't discuss all the characters, so I think for Street Fighter, we're just going to say that... It's
integrated racism. You can't really get it back out because that's how it is, and...
However, I think there is something to say there, is that we understand that using caricatures and visual signals in a fighting game helps to distinguish characters, which is very useful, but you can do it in tasteful ways. You can do it in ways that aren't racially insensitive.
Tekken.
Although Tekken has a couple of its own problems.
But Tekken is one of the most tastefully done as far as racial connections go.
That's damning with faint praise.
Okay, I'm actually curious. Where in Tekken?
The Native American character in Tekken, from what I remember.
No, she's actually very tastefully done. I think I'll say this,
but I agree with you that Tekken is leagues better.
Out of any Native American character I've seen, she is one of the most well done Native American characters I've seen. This is coming from me. I am not Native American. So if you are Native American and you fucking hate these characters, you hate these fucking characters. Because you should. Like, it's probably affecting you far more differently than me. And so, fucking hate them. If you like them, you like them. Let us know about that, actually. If you have questions about Street Fighter, for a few days after this episode, I will be happy to have discussions on our webpage and stuff with people. Our Twitter. About this, because like Capcom, there's a lot of people out there. I'm sure you play.
Set up a subreddit or something.
We can do a fucking subreddit.
I think that's where the people are.
Your job. job.
Yeah.
So, well, no, wait. It's technically my job.
Well, it's a co thing.
Yeah. So anyway, done with Street
Okay,
Fighter.
yes,
Done
we're
with
gonna-
that. We're moving past Cap Kubikan.
Do you want to talk about more just badness, or do you want to get into like act like? Here's the thing: is that when it comes to Resident Evil 5, this is just us saying you done fucked up. When it comes to Street Fighter, it's like you mostly fucked up. Try better. I see one game here is two of these games on here are definitely cautionary tales of think before you program.
We can do that.
Okay.
Now, do you want to go here first, or do you want to go here?
I think we go here because it's kind of more in line with what we have been discussing.
Okay, so again, we're going into my turf here when it comes to video games.
We're talking about everyone's favorite pride and joy.
Final Fantasy VII. So let's stop right here. If you are an over-exasperated fucking fan of Final Fantasy VII, that's great. Love your game. And if anybody says anything bad about your game, stop this tape, go off, and don't cut it back on. Because I'm about to fuck this shit up.
If you're... my recommendation is go look up... what's that guy's video on it? The sound guy...
Brental Floss?
Yeah, go look up Brental Floss's
okay.
Fantasy VII song.
Yeah, okay.
Get better perspective on this game that is a national treasure, and then come back to us.
Now, Final Fantasy VII, honestly, I like the game. It's not a bad game. I played the game. Is it the best game I've ever played in my fucking life? No. Has it grown fonder with time? Not really. I liked it, and it's cool, but let's be honest here. Cloud is no fun at all. But we're not talking about him. We're talking about Cloud's friend,
We're
Barrett.
talking about Cloud's employer in the very
His
first...
employer, actually, yes. So his employer is Barrett. Barrett is a black man who has a gun for a hand.
Boy,
when it comes
that's
out,
kind of a racially charged statement right there,
when
isn't
it comes out, it's really bad. So let me give you the full disclosure of Barrett. Barrett is a black man who curses a lot, likes to drink, is burly, very gruff with his noise, extremely violent.
Dates a white woman.
Dated a white woman. She gone.
Okay. Dated.
Well, see, that is kind of okay.
Yeah. No. Interracial relationships are perfectly fine with me.
No. What I mean by that is not a racially charged thing. That's like, ooh, they let him have a person that's not black, and
oh yeah, okay, yeah.
You know.
I guess you were talking about all of the.
I'm talking about the full-on look of him. So
well, I would say to a certain extent
his look. Let's go to the look first.
Okay.
You are derailing.
My apologies.
Like a fucking choo-choo from hell. Barrett looks like Mr. T. Looks literally straight up like Mr. fucking T.
Damn, I never thought of that.
And so that is what the character is. And so this guy is the epitome of the violent character in your group. He makes the most brash decisions and just doesn't think. Is he a horrible person? No, actually. He's a very good guy. He's actually just got a gruff exterior. And that all would have been fine if that character just wasn't overly charged with racial concepts of what black people would act like in this universe. And it is saying that because he's the only noticeable black man in that universe.
Yeah, that's the real problem, is not Barrett's portrayal. It is
but he's the only form of betrayal.
What I'm saying is that Barrett's character is not bad in and of itself. It is that
it's the only.
It is a vacuum.
It's a it's a vacuum. It's the only representation of an African American in the Final Fantasy VII universe that we have.
Yes, and then we are comparing him with all these white or quote Japanese
noticeable characters. We'll get into like how anime and comics have like Japanese characters in Japan that just look like white people.
That's a topic for another episode.
Next episode. And so, moving past that,
Zach, I don't know what you talking about. This games episode is going to take 2. We're over 40 minutes.
And we've done longer. So, Final Fantasy VII is one issue. And, like, again, trying to keep this episode short, we won't dwell too heavily into it. But then there's Final Fantasy 13. Final Fantasy 13 basically created... That is Dante and his brother. But as women.
Oh. Sorry, he's got a rotating screensaver on his... Huh.
Virgil and Dante.
Nice.
So,
back to the discussion.
So, Final Fantasy 13 is another game that came out. Now, unlike 7, Final Fantasy 13 was garbage when it came out, and it's still garbage. And for all those of you who are on Final Fantasy 14 and talking about, oh my goodness, I love Final Fantasy 13 so much. No, it's a bad game, and you're bad people. So, moving on past that, what makes...
All right, I'm going to sum up really quickly a more even discussion. Final Fantasy 13 is a lot of fireworks with no substance. Some people have.
Bad game.
It is a bad game. It is a very bad game. If you think
like, we don't even have to describe anything.
Yeah,
it's a bad game.
It's a bad game.
Like if you like it, that is fine, honestly. But you like a bad game. I'm sorry.
Try to find something better. Look in the past.
You don't have to. Just play your bad game. The point is that Final Fantasy 13, what makes it even worse for me isn't the structure of the game. Zaz is another African American character in the game. Now, what we mentioned earlier that Pagan has said is that these characters don't have fros. Zaz has a fro.
Zaz has a fro.
Zaz has a fro. So not only does he have a fro, and there's several issues with this character overall. Zaz has a fro. Inside of his fro is a chicken. I'm not making this shit up. It's a baby chicken.
Is it chocobo?
Chocobo.
Well,
the baby chicken. Chocobos are chickens.
Yeah.
And when they grow, they turn to ostrich chickens. And if any of you can debate that, you're just pulling at straws. And so he has a chicken in his fro. That's already bad enough. He also uses guns. But what I don't like about him is that he is a slapstick comedy character. Think Jar Jar Binks without all the Misas and Yusas and put him on a black character. That's how he walks and acts during combat.
Think of Jar Jar Binks, make him slightly less clumsy, and strip away the alien metaphor for black and just leave the...
Well, it's important to say that he isn't at least saying Misa and Yusa.
Yeah, it is. I guess there's that. So, congrats, Square. You're marginally
talk.
You're marginally less racist than George Lucas.
Ooh.
We're going to talk about...
I didn't think that the movie episode would have a lot.
No, episode... No, that... James... Oh, Hazak.
Whatever. So...
Movies and television, there's a lot to discuss.
Yeah, so, okay. Moving ahead of that. Zaz is another representation of how not to do an African American in games. Now, mind you, I'm pretty sure all of you are noticing this. There aren't a lot of, like, women that are misrepresented in this conversation as cultural backgrounds. Now, some of you may think that's a good thing, but it's not, because that means there's not a lot, and it makes me get in my Mickey Mouse voice. So, haha, kids. Moving.
I will pay for your dinner tonight if you can say, something actually about the discussion in the Mickey Mouse voice.
Oh, okay, kids. So, tonight, we're going to be discussing...
I knew you couldn't do it.
So tonight, we're actually going to start talking about another group of video games known as Call of the Warriors and The Division. Huh, you didn't think I would do it, bitch. Paying for my dinner. So, moving on.
I fucked up.
Yeah, you did. I'll keep this up. So...
No, please stop.
Okay, so...
Thank you, Jesus. Okay. However, momentarily stepping back to Final Fantasy 7 and 13, I don't think it's useful to just say, this game was racist. It's bad.
Oh, yeah, no. So...
What the point to take away is don't just use racial caricatures.
Yeah, like...
Put some thought into the characters that you're making, because when you use race,
it's going to be noticed.
You're making a statement.
You're making a statement. Yeah.
And you should be careful with that statement.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't just not use race, because then you're not being inclusive, then you're not representing the real world,
and you're being a chump.
And you're being a dick.
You're being a chump. You're scared of it. It's gonna rape me shit. Yeah, we're gonna fucking rape shit.
So that's the point. And so this topic, or this idea of being careful with what you say, here we go.
So, Call of Juarez and The Division are two shooter-based games. One is more popular than the other.
And one fucking terrible, one fucking racist, one not as bad in both qualities.
Yeah.
But worrisome.
So, the thing that these games both share, other than shooting, is achievements. And this is where you are connecting...
I'm not actually certain if The Division, the achievements thing is definitely the Call of Juarez. The Division is broader than just the achievements.
It's broader than achievements, but they both contact both of these subjects based off of your enemies that you are up against. Now...
And you could talk about it broadly in The Division, but let's focus on the Call of Juarez here. Yeah. Background. There is a video game called Call of Juarez: The Cartel. You are playing as, I think it's 3 different characters. It's set around California and Mexico, and it's kind of vaguely about the drug war in Mexico with the cartels.
And that is done
terribly.
Horribly.
Like, let me be very specific. Let me be very clear here. There should be more games, more movies, more anything about the drug war in Mexico. However, if you do it right. The people who made this game did it wrong in almost every way. You made a very bad game, and you should feel bad. You should feel very bad. And you should give all the money that you made on that game towards some... Just send it to the government of Mexico. You don't deserve money from this game.
Yeah.
There is a level in the game where the only NPCs that you're shooting are black. It's set in Southern California. I think the level is called Gangland. Not even going there. And this is the only level where the only enemies are black. And this is the only level where you get an achievement for shooting a certain amount of enemies. This means, by the nature of the systems in place, there is an achievement in this game for shooting a certain amount of black people. It's called Bad Guy. You can look it up. This is fucking god-awful. When you're making a game, mechanics are the actions of the game. The story is what you say. And actions speak louder than words. Be careful what you do.
Depending on your words, but yes, I agree. Essentially, it's fucking racist.
Holy fucking shit! The amount of racism in that game is almost unspeakable.
When you are driven with a desire to shoot a group of individuals that are only pertaining to a ethnical and cultural identity, that is racism. You can doll it up. You can say what you want. Fuck you. It's racism. If it happened in the real world, it's fucking racist. If it happens in the game world, it's fucking racist. Don't come to me with your cutesy shit. This is big boy corner. Big person corner. Excuse me. Patriarchal society just fucks you up. And so
there are some things that they're going to be slow.
And you see, there are this is just how it works. This is how the world should view this. There's no other way to view it. I don't want to hear your other ways of viewing it. This is one of the few things where in the chat room you keep your ignorance to yourself, because you can't. If you've played it, if you've seen it, it is racism. And while I am open to hearing your opinions and discussions on many different topics, subjugating some form of practically genocide.
That's far, but
it's close enough, because in the video game world is what I'm looking at. I'm not looking at it from.
But you're definitely counting ears.
Yeah, you're counting numbers, and you're scalping essentially. And so that it's racist. Moving past that, then there's The Division.
Now this one is less. Let us make no qualms. Call of Juarez, fucking terrible. Holy shit. The Division says something with its mechanics that is very uncomfortable. However, I think that, it's going to be an evolving game. I'm willing to at least give them mild benefit of the doubt, but the things they say with their mechanics, which I'll let Hazak discuss, are very uncomfortable.
So, the one thing I think of when I think of The Division and what's making this game so racially charged and negative and not conceptualizing racism is that you play as a unit of the government, a secret police essentially for the president, which invokes totalitarianism.
That's some Putin shit right there.
And so your secret police, you are given, aside from the president, you answer to no one else. And you are given at liberty to go and assault anyone within the grounds of the society at large at your leisure. Now, a large breadth of your enemies, and people will know where I'm going with this, are wearing some kind of identification. This form of identification in the gaming world are hoodies. I don't need to explain.
Actually, I think you do.
No. Because if we have anyone in the... Well, no, someone may be young. So, kiddos...
There are going to be people listening to this podcast who live out in the middle of fuck nowhere, Kansas. My apologies if you live in Kansas. You live in the middle of nowhere.
We excuse him for saying because you live there, you don't know anything.
But folks who live out in the middle of fucking nowhere often don't have the same experiences as those of us who live in more
urbanized city areas,
racially diverse, but yeah, cities often are.
So essentially the hoodie issue problem stems from a large number of crimes, I'm going to call them crimes, where police either openly have actually mistaken an individual for a violent individual, have charged or done a violent act or even killed an individual based off of an assumption, or profiled an individual based off an assumption, generally from hoodies and being African American. In almost all of these cases, they were young men who were African American and wearing hoodies. Almost all the cases, if I'm not mistaken, they were shot and killed.
One was suffocated.
So if you're suffocating somebody...
While he's saying, I can't breathe, breathe.
That is literally an act of violence where you are personal with that individual, close to them, and are seeing if they're a threat. Now, we won't get into the cases.
Police violence is that's a topic that we might have an entire fucking episode about.
I don't know if we should. That topic, while is a good form of discussion, requires such a multitude of education and conceptualizing, and goes far beyond video games.
Oh yes,
to a
it goes
large
beyond
degree.
Geek.
So sadly, we probably won't. But this all derives around hoodies. So all these cases, these individuals wearing hoodies. There's been movements about it where now people will wear hoodies and stuff like that. You will not catch my ass with my hoodie up. Moving into some form of kind of like, hey, hoodies should not be a representation of how to pick out an individual, and there's more power to those people. I'm just not doing it. Moving on to the Division, these individuals are wearing hoodies.
That's how you know that
you know that they are enemies and violent and will threaten your life. Now, everyone who plays the Division, I know what you're going to say. But, Zach, some of these guys aren't black or dark skinned. Some of them are white.
That's why we talk about the hoodie so much. Because
I don't fucking care. You are essentially conceptualizing these acts of violence to these individuals based off of them wearing a hoodie in the same time and era where this kind of violent act is happening currently, like recently. And so not even 2 years passed, like within months of each other. And so you cannot tell me it is done within taste. You cannot tell me that you are doing it in a helpful way. What you are essentially doing is promoting some kind of violent act towards a group of individuals. And that is a representation of the violent acts happening to another group of individuals that happen to be, for the most part, African American males. So, what I'm kind of getting at here is not to rain on the Division's parade. I don't like games like the Division. I think they are dumb in and of themselves. But what I'm saying is that the Division is not understanding how to present its message positively. There was an opportunity for a large amount of growth here in this game, and they didn't take it. Am I disappointed? Honestly, I'm not even very fucking surprised. But that is the result and the reality of these things and how they conceptualize out into the world. Moving past that, these two games are of a different level. While Call of Juarez is just openly fucked up racism, the Division is not considering itself and its mechanics and how that promotes racial profiling. The Division, I do not believe, is racist. I believe that the Division has racist tendencies within it that may not have been addressed in a constructive way. But I do not think the game in and of itself is racist. I don't think the game is good, but it's not based off of that. Call of Juarez is racist.
Piece of shit. But Hazak is making some very good points here about the Division. Like I said, it's very uncomfortable having people in the position of authority where they will not be held hostage to the court of law for their actions, and they are able to gun down with their own discretion anyone they consider a threat.
My God, it sounds almost like Arizona.
Or Florida.
Or Florida.
Or the United States.
Or the United States. Don't visit here right now. Stuff's happening.
Cops are killers.
Well, let's stop. No. I do not share that opinion. I don't think that's a fair opinion. I know what you're trying to say. And it comes from a passionate place, which is great. Cops, however, are not killers. I believe strongly and firmly there are good, honest cops out there that are actually trying to promote safety for us. Sometimes they will have to use a gun for that. Sometimes the people they shoot may be of a darker skin tone than them. I don't think that always equates to racism. That being said...
Okay, maybe I shouldn't say...
No, I get what you mean, though, and I'm not discounting what you say.
You make a definite point. I should not say that cops are killers.
Yeah.
I should not say that cops are Klansmen. However, I do want to make the statement that as far as I'm aware, in all of these cases, where a cop has ended up killing an African American who was innocent and not in a position to threaten the life of the cop.
Any form of power.
There was no significant difficulty, no significant punishment for the cop.
And I completely, wholeheartedly agree with you there. That to me is in the same vein as the opposite of this position. Just as to say that the African American men that were gunned down are not criminals. This isn't to say that there aren't African American men out there that are not. All African American men are not criminals.
But there are
African American men that are criminals. And so it is of that ideal and notion, you know, and this can go into all sorts of things, you know.
We're about to enter a very,
don't
very
even get me started
discussion
on this fucking bathroom shit and like,
I don't even.
You're letting all the bad people in the party.
You know what? The bathroom shit is ridiculous. That's something I don't even want to talk about.
We're gonna have to.
You know what I'd like to talk about, but we don't have time for here, is how we had this fucked up idea of like what crimes and what people to persecute criminally. But white collar crime that does a lot more damage to our nation and is almost always committed by white people, that goes basically unpunished.
Yeah.
But
we may do a bonus episode.
That isn't the topic of this episode.
Yeah, so moving on from the division, I know we have ran a long gambit on this episode. I'd apologize, but fuck you. And so...
Was there any... Oh, there were a couple of others. Oh, shit, we didn't... Are we gonna keep going?
Yeah, we're gonna keep going. Wait, no, we got like two more. What did you want to do?
Tell you what.
What?
I think this is the point where we should call it.
Oh, should we call it in the next episode?
And then we have another
episode.
Right.
So we're gonna do a bit of like executive decision making here. You see, we're keeping it real, folks.
We apologize for lying to you earlier in this episode where we said that we would eventually discuss happy topic.
I'm not apologizing. Take this sad episode and feel bad and go eat cookies and cream, ice cream, and then when you're done, if you're like me, you're going to be on toilet because you have lactose intolerant dilemma and it makes it horrible.
I almost completely agree with that, except go eat some good ice cream, not cookies and cream.
Hold up, okay, this is the same fucker that eats like lemon cookies and
I
shit.
love lemon cookies
Fucking
and lemon ice cream.
Like this, I'm being ageist. He's eating fucking lemon shit and it's...
I like sour stuff, okay?
Nasty shit. So, for real, sorry we are ending the episode early. Actually, this episode's been going for a long time. I'm surprised if you're still listening to this and haven't taken breaks. Thank you for listening to this episode. We're going to go on the next episode and actually give some happier thoughts at the beginning about how some video games have done racism or racial connections.
Yeah.
Well, and I do say racism well too because Walking Dead does it in a very tasteful way.
Well,
not tasteful.
Well, you just gave it away.
Oh, and whatever. If you know video games and you're culturally sound, you've played Walking Dead and you know what I'm talking about. And if you haven't played the Walking Dead video games, fuck you. Go play the fucking game. It's on sale almost all the time. It's wonderful.
What he means is you now have a week in which to play it all. So here's your chance.
So next episode, what? We're going to talk about positive impacts.
Yeah, and then we're going to talk about...
We're going to start dwelling into some animals. Mango.
Mango. Maybe. I think we can actually maybe get 40 minutes out of that. Anyway, have a good day.
Bye. He's waving at the fucking mic.
Thank you for playing.